The lunch bell rang through the halls of Blackridge High School, and students flooded the cafeteria, laughing, talking, and forming cliques like magnets snapping into place. In the corner, away from the noise and social chaos, sat a girl most of them barely noticed, quiet, slender, always in her own world. Her name was Alina. Soft-spoken and seemingly fragile, Alina had become a favorite target for those who found cruelty easier than kindness. She sat with her tray, picking at a sandwich, eyes fixed on the floor. Her uniform was neat, her posture small, and her presence so silent that it felt like she was trying to disappear. But for three girls across the cafeteria, the self-declared queens of the school, Alina's quietness was an invitation, a canvas for humiliation. "You think you're better than us because you're quiet." One of them had taunted her the week before. Alina had said nothing. She never did. And that silence only made their venom grow. That day, the ringleader, Tasha, whispered something to her friends. They all laughed, stood up, and strutted toward Alina. The cafeteria wasn't paying attention. Everyone was too absorbed in their own conversations to notice what was brewing in the far corner. Tasha slammed her hand down on Alina's tray, sending the sandwich to the floor. Alina looked up, startled, but didn't speak. The girls smirked, and before she could react, one of them grabbed her arm. Another one tugged at her back. With a swift yank, they tore a piece of her school uniform, ripping it near the shoulder. The sound of fabric tearing echoed louder in Alina's ears than the entire cafeteria around her. Some students saw it happen. A few laughed, others just looked away. Nobody stepped in. Alina stood up slowly. Her breath was steady. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. Something inside her had changed, like a glass that had been cracked one too many times. She stared at them, her eyes no longer soft or hesitant, but cold. Without a word, she moved. In a blink, her knee came up with brutal precision, not wild or messy, but clean and sharp. The hit landed on the lead bully's ribs with a crack so loud it silenced the entire cafeteria. Tasha gasped and crumpled to the ground, wheezing. The second girl stepped back, but Alina turned and delivered a spinning elbow that caught her across the jaw. The third, she ran. Everyone stared in stunned silence. Some dropped their phones mid-scroll. Others had their mouths open in disbelief. Teachers came running. The vice principal grabbed Alina by the shoulders, pulling her back. But she wasn't trying to continue the fight. She stood still, breathing hard, looking straight ahead as if she had finally found her voice, even if she hadn't said a word. Tasha was taken to the nurse's office with cracked ribs. The school called her parents. Alina's father, a retired martial arts instructor who now worked as a therapist, arrived shortly after. When he saw his daughter sitting calmly in the office with her uniform torn and eyes still wet, he didn't scold her. He didn't ask why. He just sat beside her and held her hand. Alina had never told him how bad it had gotten at school. She hadn't wanted to be a burden. She had always believed silence would keep her safe. But now she realized silence had only fed their cruelty. The school opened an investigation. Several students came forward, sharing videos and stories of what those girls had done over the past year. Teachers who had ignored the signs were now being questioned. The administration had no choice but to suspend the bullies and offer counseling to Alina. For the first time, the students of Blackridge High looked at Alina differently. Not with pity, but with respect. In the weeks that followed, she started walking with her head higher. She joined the after-school martial arts club. People began sitting next to her at lunch, asking her questions, listening when she spoke, and she did speak now. Not a lot. Just enough to let the world know she was no longer invisible. The story of the quiet girl who broke a bully's ribs became legend. Whispered in every hallway, posted on every student's story. But for Alina, it wasn't about the kick or the crowd's reaction. It was about reclaiming her space. About deciding she wasn't going to let cruelty define her life anymore. She didn't want revenge. She wanted peace. And sometimes, peace begins when you stop running and finally stand your ground.